rubber plants, or rather how the geeky world likes to call it. Ficus elastica is a true blue tropical plant. It's an indoor plant that can help remove contaminants like formaldehyde that are shown to occur indoors because of particle board furniture, plyboard furniture. And if you stay in any of those cold countries where they use insulation, that insulation is also known to be a source of formaldehyde indoors. So today, let's talk about this amazing indoor plant, which is not only a great air purifier, but also a great indoor decor piece, a living decor piece. And in this video, I'm also going to share a trick in how you can improve the growth of this plant. This plant has two varieties, mostly two varieties that you see in the market. One is this variegated one. It's called variegated because of this beautiful pattern that it has. And the other one, which is more common, is this burgundy one. This specific one also you would commonly seen growing as trees, and actually the name Ficus Elastica comes because this white liquid is used to make rubber from it. Now, by textbook, this plant likes bright areas. It requires a lot of light, but intense sun can also burn leaves. By my experience, what I've learned about this plant is that you can keep it in somewhat medium light, like this living room in which I'm standing here, or a very bright balcony like our balcony, which is west facing. And this balcony gets from 12 noon to about 5 p.m. sun. However, what I recommend for this plant is late afternoon sun or early morning sun. If you keep it in very bright sun, the noon sun, it'll start burning the leaves like this. And of course, you don't want that to happen. So what I do is I keep it in this room next to a window. Now, for watering, it is somewhat tolerant to underwatering, by which I mean even if you water this plant once a week, it should be okay. So if you have to travel, this plant would most likely not die on you. Although I do not recommend watering once a week. Watering it once in 3 to 4 days is a good idea. And remember, whenever you water this plant, or for that matter, whenever you water any indoor plant, water it thoroughly. Which means whenever you add water, wait for the water to seep from below, from the bottom of the pot. This basically ensures that each and every root of the plant has received water, moisture. Alright, now what do we do for improving the growth of this plant? Because I get a lot of DMs and a lot of comments that my rubber plant is not growing. There are two things that will help you to improve the growth of this plant. Number one is, of course, add a fertilizer. Because when you keep a plant in a pot, the soil regularly loses nutrients with water. And you have to replenish, you have to add fertilizer to improve the nutrient availability for the plant. So what fertilizer you use? You can use any kind of a fertilizer, a vermicompost, a compost, seaweed solution. You can also use the chemical ones, which I don't highly recommend though, but any kind of fertilizer is fine. And what is the duration? How frequently do you add fertilizer? Once a month or once in 40 to 50 days is a good idea. A handful of compost, or most of the fertilizer come with how much dose you're supposed to add, so follow that. The second thing that will help improve the growth of this plant is to actually cut the stem from the top. At first, it might feel a little painful that your plant is perfectly healthy looking and why am I cutting it? Well, I will show you two examples. This plant was mostly growing vertically and I had never cut the stem. In that case, one, you have to give support for the plant, especially when it reaches about 2 feet or more. The second thing is that it does not grow heavy. It'll just grow vertically and it won't seem more dense. Thirdly, I've realized that the rate of growth is much slower when you're not clipping the plant from the top. There's a lot of science as well based on this, but it is shown that for lots of plants, pruning in fact helps them to improve their growth. So the second example is this plant as opposed to that plant. Here the side growth actually started quite early on. You can see that on almost every stem there is a bud coming out. Apart from this, you don't have to do much for this plant. You don't have to actually also repot it that quickly. You can see the roots are coming out here. Also the roots are coming out from the base. Despite that, I have not repotted this plant. If you want to know why, in detail in my recent video I talked about it, that why you should not move your indoor plants to a bigger pot that quickly. In short, I can tell you that if you shift this plant to a bigger pot, the first thing you'll try and do in a bigger pot is establish its roots under the soil, and this would affect its rate of growth, the vertical rate of growth. So it's better that we keep it in this pot. And I will try and show you the root situation here. This is how its roots look right now, and I think this plant can sustain in this pot for another 3 to 4 months. And when I will have to repot this plant, I will use homemade soil. What I generally do is use garden soil, mix equal amount of coco peat. Why coco peat? Coco peat generally helps to retain moisture for a very long time and reduces the density of soil. In places like Karnataka, instead of the regular garden soil, you get that red lal mitti. A lot of you have asked me that, is that lal mitti alright? Yes, it's definitely alright. It is the normal garden soil, actually, that is the local soil there, and it does brilliantly well for the plants. Whatever regular soil you get in your area, in Maharashtra, in Delhi, in Bengal, use that regular soil, whatever you get at the nurseries, and you can add equal amount of coco peat. Sometimes nurseries also sell prepared soil which will have coco peat, perlite and everything. You can buy that one as well. Alright, so here is your complete guide on how to care for rubber plant. These tips are mostly what I have learned keeping rubber plant. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, let me know down below. A lot of times I'm not able to reply to your comments, but I'm always seeing what are your comments and I try to address those questions in my videos. One thing I would like to address in this video is that question that a lot of people ask for this plant or any plant, is that, is this an indoor plant or an outdoor plant? Now, if you think about it, technically every plant is an outdoor plant, right? Now, this concept of indoor plants came into existence because you could provide the necessary condition for a plant to grow indoors as well. For example, this rubber plant, it requires bright light conditions. Now, if I can provide this indoors, it is an indoor plant. But even if my balcony can provide the necessary conditions for this plant to grow, it becomes an outdoor plant. So by definition, there's nothing as indoor or outdoor plant. It totally depends on where you can provide the necessary conditions.